Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to MechaWill. I apologize for the video recording quality, and also the fact that I have no mic and I'm in a very ambient area, and also the fact that I haven't uploaded for a while. But let's get right onto the topic, because if you're going to be watching this video, it's probably very likely that you've never been to my channel before. But the topic of this discussion today is about VaatiVidya, and of course we know that VaatiVidya is one of the most prominent Souls channels on YouTube, with I think almost 500,000 subscribers at this point. And he's noted for his work on lore and on figuring out the lore of Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, most of From Software related games. Now recently, and by recently I mean like 8 or 9 hours ago, there's been a video put up by a different YouTuber. I apologize for the throat. Talking about plagiarism. VaatiVidya is purported to have plagiarized specific things from different YouTubers over the years through his videos. So I'm just here to have a chat about this. Now, I posted in the subreddit where this was that I was, after Vaati had given a full response to the video, I watched both the video and Vaati's take on it, and I stood in support of VaatiVidya. Now, to most people, that seems pretty brash, and also I'm noticing a lot of Reddit comments that are pretty fired up. You know how Reddit gets, and it's turning into a small sort of witch hunt. I said that in my comments. It seems completely over the top for what's happening. Now, plagiarism is a serious issue. The idea of I myself am an artist. I do YouTube channels, but I'm also an actor, and I also play guitar, and I love to write as well. So all of these things, of course, I would be morose for if somebody stole my work, or if somebody took ideas from my work and then profited off of them without then acknowledging my support to whatever project that they were doing. Or if it was something that I'd copyrighted or something like that. Of course, this is a very serious issue, and I don't want to belittle that by my earlier comment. Now, you can watch the video. I'll put the link to the YouTube video in my description, and also the link to Vaati's response, if I can do that somehow, in the description, and you guys can take a look at it for yourself. But here I am talking about my controversial opinion. So the plagiarism, the main points of the plagiarism that I gleaned from the video were that VaatiVidya had plagiarized a work of a Reddit user named Deaden, who made artwork for Dark Souls. So in Vaati's Dark Souls lore in a minute video that he used Deaden's artwork in it without properly accrediting Deaden. This happened back in 2012, I believe, or somewhere around there, before he started getting Patreon. Before he even subscribed to Patreon, which was up in 2014, as the video states. And this is what I want to start with, because VaatiVidya acknowledged that he did take this user's artwork, and if you go to the video, you can see he at least put up a annotation over the video, and he'd done this years back, that said that this is the user Deaden, and you can find his artwork down here in the description below, and all this kinds of stuff. Now, the video. The YouTuber that was pointing out these flaws in Vaati's reasoning or whatever, pointed out that he hid it in the description, that this Reddit user Deaden, the links to it were below the transcript for the video, and he somehow seemed to take that as some sort of confirmation that Vaati likes to keep his that he doesn't like to promote anybody else's work except for his own. I think that's very, very flawed, very shaky reasoning, to merely transcribe that, and also the wording that he used on the annotation and stuff like that. That is very shaky ground, and I think Vaati acknowledged that, and I would just like to start with that, because that seems to be the most kind of clear, concise thing before we get into some of these more murkier things that we're talking about later on. But that seems, he acknowledged that he had used the user's artwork back when he was just starting as a YouTuber, and also just starting making content and all this kinds of things. He was not profiting off of it per se. I suppose, you know, there's YouTube and all that, but he also acknowledged it and then fixed his mistake, and so forth. So let's move on to the bigger issues. I realize this may be a long video, but I also know this is a controversial thing in the community, and I would like to be part of the community and part of this discussion. So one of the major things that has been going on is there was a 40-page dissertation, I mean, maybe that's the wrong word for it, you know, essay, on Bloodborne's lore. And Vaati, of course, recently has come out with, you know, with Vaati, with Bloodborne lore videos on the story and all this kinds of stuff. And the most, I guess, damning piece of evidence is that it was put through a proxy plagiarism tester, which found it to be over 50% plagiarized. Now, Vaati acknowledged this in his paragraph and acknowledged that, you know, in his scripts, as well as, you know, the user, as well as most users and most content creators for the Souls community, they use a lot of item descriptions, they use a lot of the same wording for this kind of stuff that's taken verbatim from the game, in that kind of sense. So I imagine a plagiarism checker would quite easily pick up on the same description or whatever, you know, these are one for one, and then, you know, this happens a lot throughout the scripts that they were put in, and the wording, you know, that comes directly from the game or comes from concepts from the game and stuff like that. And I can easily imagine, you know, a plagiarism checker or something that checks for similar wording in similar structures and different paragraphs and stuff like that would come up quite a lot in, you know, in these two very distinct cases. So I think that's something that you need to look at. And then, of course, there was the which you'll see in the video and also in his response below. You see there's two Dark Souls videos on Lucatiel of Mira, where very specifically two, like, 10-second parts of each of these, like, 13, 14-minute videos were very similar, in the sense that the dialogue that was used and cut from Lucatiel's dialogue was in the exact same order, albeit with one that was not in the exact same order, but we'll overlook that. And then also the situations that were used, the scripting for these two different instances were very similar as well. In fact, they were almost the same in the sense that they used the same gear and the same emote and the same it said the same choreography, but from what I was trying to glean from the video, all that meant was they both used a parry, they both were in the same location, and they both used the same emote afterwards. So that's what that must be taken as. And of course, the way Vaati, obviously I'm not getting into very much detail about this, but of course the way Vaati that describes this in his video was, you know, Lucatiel of, you're both doing videos on Lucatiel. You both have these discussions that are using very limited dialogue, especially this is Dark Souls 2. And, you know, throughout the game, you know, Lucatiel only says these certain things. And of course, when these videos have these two climactic sequences, you know, areas where they have to be the same, or, you know, meeting Azlatil, her brother, and all that kind of stuff, you know, there's only very specific dialogue that works in that context and all this kinds of stuff, and it all gets boiled down to they both had the same choices, and they both had the same storyline to work with, and they both had the same character to work with, and the same dialogue options, and the same all this stuff was cut further and further down until they had basically the same tools to work with, and it happened that they ended up with relatively the same result. For instance, you know, I saw people on Reddit that were commenting about specifically the emote. They both used the joy emote at the end of the battle sequence, and, you know, so a Reddit user said that there was other ways for somebody to express joy at the end of a video, and said Vaati was full of shit or something like that. And I mean, if you're looking for something to be happy, you know, if you're looking for, you know, a victory, you know, like, you're joyful, and that's kind of the number one emote that comes to my head. I would imagine maybe the war cry, like the that one may have worked as well, but again, I think this is all a little too much to go hanging the man on. Now we'll get to the brunt of why I'm making this video and why this is important to me, and why, even as I'm seeing, people drop from his Patreon, and I'm seeing people on Reddit, saying that he's disgraceful, and Vaati himself said he's gotten death threats and hate mail and all this kinds of stuff. He absolutely does not deserve this. And I know that this is, again, for some reason this is controversial. I'll be posting this to Redditors, or I'm assuming is where you're going to be watching this, and most people are going to be thinking that, I'm sure that my video is going to get a lot of those people, the same people that are commenting on Vaati's work and saying, saying that he's full of shit and all those kinds of things. But I think we have to look at who Vaati is in this community. A lot of people have built him up to be, as was stated in the video and as is shown in lots of other places, the lore god, the lore master, all these kinds of things. Something that you'll never catch Vaati saying himself. He'll never be like, well, this is coming from VaatiVidya, the lore master today. We're going to talk about, the Forest of Fallen Giants. Like, he doesn't... The way he speaks and the way he is in most of his videos, you can tell that he's very humble, or at least he tries to be humble, however you want to color that. But he's very humble in his videos, and especially as a creator, he seems very less outspoken than a lot of the crazy YouTubers, and I think this is something that needs to be put in perspective a little bit. He is not going crazy with his ego. He's not going around calling himself all these things. We have built him up like that as a community because we enjoy the content that he creates, and he's arguably the most popular content creator for the Souls franchise. And I think that's the second point of my argument, is that has to be acknowledged as well, because we're not just doing that for no reason. We haven't been doing that for years and enjoying all of his content and works and all of this stuff for no reason. Vaati is talented. He may not be the lore master. He may not be the guy that can put together all of these crazy stories, but Vaati works hard at his videos. Vaati has made countless scripts. I don't want to get this. I don't want this to come off as me just being a random Vaati fan. I want to take a look at this. Basically, what we have is 3 or 4 purported acts of plagiarism that all stand on very shaky ground. They all have supporting evidence. But a lot of the evidence is pretty fallacious, in the sense that it's just evidence by coincidence, which is, these things happened. Let me put it like this: in a court of law, innocent until proven guilty. The way that Vaati put his sequences together in his videos, and the way that somebody else put their sequences for Lucatiel in their videos, it is possible that Vaati just made the same, sequences as this other person did, or other way around or whatever. And it is. You can't just jump on to the notion until it's proven that Vaati, actively goes around YouTube stealing these things. And that's the second part of why I think this is. I know I've said second part so many times. That's the second part of why I think this is so ridiculous. The idea that Vaati goes around the internet looking to steal content from other very, smaller YouTubers. Not to disparage small YouTubers. I'm a small YouTuber myself, probably the smallest YouTuber you could possibly find. But it's almost laughable to think that, there's a few of these instances that seem very suspicious, on what Vaati is doing, but then we choose to not look at the countless hundreds of other videos that he puts into work on his Demon Souls and on the Dark Souls and on the Dark Souls 2 and all these kinds of things, where he writes all the scripts, where he does all the narration. We're not having any of that in context. When you have these in context, and when you understand kind of what Vaati is and what Vaati does and how much he has done since his channel started in like 2011, or I'm not quite sure, that's not factual at all. But years ago, he's been doing this stuff for years, and suddenly he needs, for one Bloodborne video, for one Dark Souls 2 video, he needs to scour the internet to find inspiration. I mean, no offense, but it seems not only ridiculous but a little bit implausible. Vaati has been coming up with his own content for years. Vaati has been making his own videos for years. And we have this instance where two of these things are similar. You ran something through a proxy plagiarism check, which is based on scripts that are based on a video game and the interpretation of that video game. And then also one transgression with, him using the same artwork. It seems too much. It seems too much for the response that he's going to get, that he has been getting. And for, what this means for us as a community, and how this is going to fracture us. I consider myself part of the Souls community. I love the Souls games. I love Bloodborne. I've platinumed them, all of them, except for Bloodborne. I haven't finished my playthrough yet, which you'll see on this channel, because a lot of technical issues. But besides that, I consider myself part of the Souls community, as does Vaati. He's not just coldly standing outside looking down on us like a tyrannical, overlord or something like that. From what I've seen from interviews of Vaati and what I know of Vaati, granted, from a consumer perspective, just from, watching him as a content creator myself and watching the works that he's done, never actually meeting him in person. I'd like to make that entirely clear. He seems very humble, and he seems like he enjoys what he does. He seems like he loves being part of this community, and for what is appearing to be happening, which is a huge push out of Vaati and a huge, again, kind of witch hunt of this content creator who has done so much and has very clearly gained the respect of the community, which is what's being shattered right now, through doing countless videos, on his own, whether or not these are points of contention. And like I said, not to belittle plagiarism. If Vaati actually did steal these things, and this was, proven, or Vaati came out and admitted all these things, of course, that's a terrible thing to do, especially to a content creator. I'd like to make that perfectly clear right now. But what I'd also like to make perfectly clear is that this is not perfectly clear right now. Yet suddenly we're getting out our pitchforks and, burning down Vaati's house. And, it may be a very nice house. I've seen people make way more off Patreon than Vaati does. But, he does make money off of what he does, which is, a lot of the reason why people on YouTube do what they do, to make a living, to pay their rent, to support themselves. But also because I know that Vaati's doing what he loves to do, and I don't want to be long-winded. I see this is already like a 17, 18-minute video, and I don't know if you got to this point or if you just kind of quit after a while. But I don't want to just kind of be going over the same topics. I am just doing this on the fly. I'm here on a vacation of sorts out of town, and that's why I don't have any of my equipment with me, and that's why I'm just doing this on a very basic setup. But this is a little bit egregious. This is a little bit of a overstatement to what's at hand, and I think that you're not going to only be damaging Vaati, which I think is unfair, but you're also going to be damaging the community and fracturing the people that want our community to be a whole, with our wonderful content creators, Terra Mantis, Dave Control Live, Sunlight Blade, all of these beautiful, wonderful, Abyss Gravelord, and all of the things that I love about this community, all of these YouTubers. Vaati's a part of that, and tearing him out of that by trying to purport that he steals his ideas and that he can't actively create things on his own, which is implausible. It seems very ridiculous to me when you look at how many videos that he's done and how many things he's done by himself. Also the stuff that he's done outside of his videos, with his working with actual From Software and working on, guides and PR and marketing and all this kinds of stuff for the various Dark Souls things. It just seems very disparaging, and it seems like an act of defamation towards him, which is unwarranted. I understand that these are serious allegations and they absolutely need to be looked into more. But I think the research that was done by this one YouTuber, through a couple of message board threads, that found, again, I think in total throughout the whole video, maybe 4 instances of shakiness, in the sense that you have your Dark Souls 2 Lucatil video, you have your dead end image steal, and you have your Bloodborne spurn. I don't know. I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on this. I'd love for people to be taking this kind of clearly and going by American culture, or I'm sure not all of you live in America, so again, not to disparage any of you, but being innocent until proven guilty. The proof is not there. It is very circumstantial, and the fact that Vaati denies it is, and some of you may be like, of course he denies it. Well, there are instances where he'd be like, you know what, I did screw up. And to be honest, he's such a big YouTuber that him coming forward and saying I screw up and I'm sorry and this is all accurate and all this stuff would not hurt his bottom line. He may lose some subscribers, and he's already probably losing some subscribers now. But this is not. Vaati doesn't need to sit there and be belligerent and deny and all this kinds of stuff. He could go out and admit to all of this, and he would be fine as a channel. Which I think is more more evidence in support of the fact that he is actively fighting and defending against whether or not that he's actually done these things, and he purports that he has done none of these things. That these are coincidence, and he regards the dead end image from his Dark Souls lore in a minute video as being a mistake that he made as a smaller YouTuber that was also remedied. So maybe I don't have my facts right. Maybe I'm not understanding a couple of other things from this situation. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I haven't addressed something in this video, and I imagine that you'd be pretty pissed if I didn't. But I think that's the brunt of the situation. That's the majority of what's been talked about. And again, I'll just restate that this is coming from a content creator that is not just like shilling out cheap videos to get subscribers and to get Patreon money. This is from a guy that is a lover of the Souls community and has done countless projects and works and spent a long amount of his time, however much you want to think that he spends on each of his videos, making these videos for us. Even if you put aside these instances, all of the other videos that it's very clear they came up on his own, and they wrote on his own and edited on his own and all this kinds of stuff, and you have the stance that he's guilty until he's proven innocent. Unfortunately, I think that we as a community, and we as what we are doing and we as a community need to take a step back, from the lynching, from the burning, from the from the pitchforks, and we need to take this step by step and look for a little bit more proof, because these are all plausibly denied, and a lot of you may be like, you're full of shit, he put it through an internet plagiarism detector and it found that it was over 50% accurate. I mean, people are going to argue for what they argue, and Vaati argued his case, and I read his response, and I watched the video, and I'm not biased towards either of them. I could give two shits. I think they're both, I don't know the other guy. Clearly I forgot his name throughout this whole video, but I will post it. I'll put it in the video. I promise. I really apologize. I respect all Souls creators. I respect what they're all doing. I just think, I'll end the video here, but I just think we need to take a step back. We need to relax, and we need to look at what's going on, and this kind of stuff does not help anybody. It hurts. It's going to hurt Vaati. Whether or not you care about that, that's fine, but it's also going to hurt the community, and it's also going to hurt the way that we look at maybe issues like this in the future with other YouTubers, and the fact that it looks like Dave Control Live has the same flippy parry sequence for one of his lore videos that Terra Mantis now does, or that another unknown YouTuber does, and then suddenly we burn down Dave Control Live's house, and again, metaphorically. But this is an over response, and this is why I needed to make this video, to show my support for VaatiVidya, which again, in this community, in this particular, I'm supposing on Reddit, is going to be very controversial. But I hope that you've taken a look at both of those and thought about it hard yourself, and thought about the idea that Vaati is somehow thinks he's above the community, has been painted as this dark, evil character, when if you look at Vaati in any situation, he's very humble. And then also that he doesn't have the ingenuity or the creativity to script out a fencing sequence on his own when he's done countless. It just seems implausible to me. I'm not gonna say, false, because the accusation is there, but Vaati denies it, and I think until it's been definitively proven, which really could only come from firsthand Vaati, admitting, which probably won't happen, and that may not satisfy some people in their hunts, but that's the way it has to be, until there's more corroboration and until there's more evidence than this fallacious, shaky argument that seems to fall apart as soon as I point out any of other Vaati's videos, where he does all this stuff by himself and he doesn't need to scour the internet looking for small indie Souls creators to steal stuff from. Until that can happen, it's innocent until proven guilty, as far as I'm concerned. And not only that, I would like to actively, demonstrate my support for VaatiVidya in this case, as controversial as that may be. So we'll see where this gets me, but thank you for taking the time to come and listen. I promise my channel is going to be up and running if you're a current subscriber here, or, I know there's not many of you, but I promise my channel is going to be up and running. I had a lot of stuff going on. I moved, and then my internet kicked out, and then now it's all back, and now I'm getting back into creating, and this video should mark the start of me getting back into the role again with some of my playthroughs and some of my commentary and skits and such. So thank you very much for coming to MechaWill. I appreciate you taking the time, very long amount of time, to sit here and listen to my ramblings, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love a little bit less to hear your, unconstructive criticisms. I do love constructive criticism, of course, and